Welcome everyone. Thank you for spending your hour here this Wednesday for us. As we know, like in today's fast-paced software development industry, being a top-notch SDET or what we call software developer engineer in test is critical to the success of any project. But what sets us apart from the rest and what are the secrets to the success is what we will discuss in today's webinar. Let me introduce you to Siddharth Shukla. So Siddharth has 12 years of IT experience with rich expertise in automation testing. Siddharth is working as an SDET2 in a high-renowned FANG organization. He's the founder and author of the blog Automation Reinvented. I will put the link as well there so you can follow his work over there. Siddharth also holds ISTQB, Learn Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma, Yellow Belt, and HIPAA certifications. He's also well known in the testing community as a mentor and as a coach and as a trainer. So feel free to connect to him even outside this webinar for any help that you may need. So without further ado, let me welcome you to Siddharth. Siddharth, thank you for being there for the Q community and giving us your time to share your knowledge with us. So welcome on stage, and yeah, it's all yours for here.
Thank you, Yosli, for first of all for arranging such things, because it really helps both the QA community and right now we can say SDET community too, right?
Yeah.
To learn and grow further. Okay, so hello everyone. Let me first share my screen, and I hope you guys will be able to see my screen. So what I will try to cover in this, as we know, right, there are a lot of things going on in SDET field, or you can say QA field. So it's sometimes difficult for us to figure out that what we should learn, right? And what should be our career path if we are targeting an SDET role in future, right? So there are a lot of things to cover, but I have just tried to jot it down the most important ones. And I have tried to put it in the sequence of priority or the sequence of importance you need to means follow while preparing for an SDET role, right? So first thing is about the tools and tech stack, right? There are a lot of tools going on in market. There are a lot of tech stacks, right? But we cannot say like, okay, only one tool is enough, or learning about 2 or 3 tools is enough. Rather than I would definitely suggest to target in a, so this slide I'm going to share with you. It has all the links. Okay, you don't have to worry about noting down the things. So what tools and tech to learn, in that I always suggest to focus on 5 important things. Okay, the first thing is your dependency management. You can pick any dependency management, right? You pick Maven, Gradle, whichever is feasible for you, but you should be very good in one dependency management, right? Why I'm dependency management? Because when you start working as an SDET, you need to deal with multiple packages. It's not like only the framework package, right? You have to integrate with multiple components. You need to may use multiple packages. A typical example would be you are doing UI automation and you have to make some API calls, right? For some part of the functional flow. Now you will consume the API package, right? So if you are not very good in the dependency management, it would be difficult for you to link different things, right? How to link multiple packages or how to create a package as dependencies. Those things would be difficult for you to figure out if you don't have proper hold on the dependency management. That's why the first thing is dependency management with Maven or Gradle or any dependency management you use, that would be fine, right? The basic concepts remain same. The second one would be you should have very good backend or service testing knowledge, right? Now, when I say backend, and why I say backend service testing, because usually they use the technical term as service testing more as compared to API, though it would be pretty much similar, service testing and API testing, but still it would be more on the service testing side. Why? Because if you think about SDET role, SDET role doesn't mean you are going to automate something. You are not supposed to, you are not expected to write test scripts. It's not your primary job role, right? I have another slide where I have mentioned what are the job role for an SDET. So the second one would be service testing. And why service testing? Because when you get into a project assigned as an SDET, you need to first understand what kind of architecture that project has. It is a microservice architecture, it is a monolith architecture. You need to understand the architecture. You need to see how the services are communicating with each other. Then you have to come up with an idea that are you going to approach as with integration testing, or you are going to write functional service testing. So those calls need to be made by an SDET. And to decide that, you should have proper understanding of your architecture. You should understand your service, how your service are communicating, what kind of authorization they are using. Is there any external services involved? If yes, then how you are going to manage the schema, how you are going to make sure that whatever you are consuming, that is of proper format, what you are expecting. Do you need to do any contract testing? So all those kind of things you need to do. And for that, you should have proper understanding of service or backend testing. And in this one, you can focus on any famous API testing tool or open source library. That would be fine. Okay, there is no constraint like, okay, you need to learn this tool or that tech stack. You can pick any there are many open source libraries, many tools, right? Proper tools. You can pick any one to learn on the service side. But one tip over here, always understand microservice and monolith first, okay, before jumping into service. And when we talk about microservice and monolith, do have a proper understanding of client server architecture, right? Because if we don't understand that, we cannot ask the right question during the architecture call, because that happens many a times, right? When we are going through architecture call, we are unable to figure out that what question we should ask as an automation tester or as an SDET. Correct. So the third one would be CI/CD. CI/CD is the most important part an SDET should know. Okay. He should be the person who should come up with an idea to integrate your package with your build and deploy jobs, right? Usually there would be three main jobs: build, deploy, test, right? So he should be the person who take care of the build sometime, because in every organization we don't have a DevOps tool, right? So sometime SDT need to pitch in. He need to take care of the pipeline automation too. That's why proper understanding of CI/CD is very, very important. You can pick any tool, Jenkins, Bamboo, Circle, CI, whatever you pick, that would be fine, right? But you should know how to do CI/CD. In CI/CD, focus on how to integrate your POM, how to integrate your build.gradle, right? How to auto trigger, how to schedule, how to do email notification, how to create a pipeline, how to set up dependency, right? So those are the important things you need to focus in CI/CD. I have blogs on all those things. I will share it. Don't worry if you can't find anything. This is the third one. Fourth one would be your source code management. You should be very good in Git. Okay. Any source code management tool you use, you should be very good in that. Why? Because when you are working as an SDT, you will design something which will be consumed by multiple teams, right? So multiple teams will share your code base, and they are going to contribute in your code. In that case, there is high possibility that you need to frequently do rebase and merge. Frequently. Conflicts will happen frequently. So you cannot always go back to Google or someone to ask that how I will resolve it. So you need to be very, very strong in Git. And the reason is that because in SDET, you don't design something only for your project. That is not going to give you proper ROI, right? And automation QA also can do that. It's not about what framework you're designing. It's about how the framework you're designing and how you are making it a consumable one. It should not be something which is specific for your project. So whenever you design something as an SDET, keep in mind that somewhere in down the line, it should be consumed by multiple teams. Then only my ROI will come good, right? So the fourth one will be Git. The fifth one will be containerization. So all those are top 5 stacks. Okay, dependency management, service testing, CI/CD, your source code management. Fifth one would be your containerization. Containerization is very important. Okay, containerization will help you to do parallel execution. Correct, and parallel execution is most in demand. Correct, but UI mobile parallel testing is more important as compared to API. This is the fact, because API is very faster. We don't have to always execute it in a parallel, right? But still, we need to learn containerization. You should be able to create a EC2 instance. You should be able to create Docker containers inside your instance. You should be able to execute your suite parallel, right? All those knowledge you should have, how the containerization works, what happens. So the logic behind those things should definitely be learned. And you should, because going forward you have to use the cloud hosted devices. There are many cloud hosted devices, right? For example, lambda test, your browser stack, there are many things going on in market, right? Anyone you pick, it's not like any specific, but anyone you should pick and give it a try sometime, right? How the things work. But what happens in real time, you may not get the privilege to use those cloud hosted device. You need to create your own device farm. How you will create your own device farm if you don't know containerization? So I'm giving you a reason that why I'm saying this tech stack is important, right? If your company is providing cloud hosted devices, so far so good. If it doesn't provide, then you have to create of your own, right? That's why containerization is very vital and very important. So these five tech stacks are the most important one. I have listed down everything in this, what tools and tech to learn. Okay, in this you will find everything in this link. So I will share this one with you, this slide, so you will get to know what are the tools and tech stack additional part little bit, right? But these five are the most important. Let's go back to the second one. The second one would be the Java coding standards. Okay. So as an SDET, how you will differentiate from QA or automation? You need to be very good in coding. Okay. If you don't like coding, then definitely we should not focus on the SDET role much. You have to be very good in coding. You should know about all Java coding standards. Here I have mentioned all the coding guidelines because it's a huge topic. If we start discussing about coding standards, it will take 3 to 5 hours. So I have jotted down all the points in this link. You can go through it. Okay. But the main things why we need coding standards, because code optimization is your primary role, right? You should know how to optimize your code. Correct? How to use property file, how to use JSON file, how to create maps instead of putting multiple dot headers. Just I'm giving an example, right? So all those things you should aware of, how to optimize your code, how to define your constants, right? What are the coding standards you should maintain? What are the naming convention you should maintain, right? How to why not to use sys.out? Why not to use thread.sleep? You should use try catch or throws. So those are the very basic things and you should be aware of it. And to make yourself aware of it, you should be very good with the coding guidelines. Learn about coding guidelines, see that how you can implement it in your project. And when you are in the initial role, make a comparison. Try to write without code optimization and then first write the normal code, then optimize it. You will figure out that you have reduced 10 lines of code into 3 or 4 lines. So those kind of optimization you should definitely learn. And for that, your Java coding standard should be very good, right? In fact, I always say if you're targeting SDET, your mindset should be 60 to 70%. Your mindset should be how I can resolve a larger problem. I will come to that point in the next slide, next to next slide, I guess. And when resolving that problem, you need to also make sure that you have maintained proper coding standards, right? It should not be like you have just written linear code without considering any coding standards, right? Don't define unnecessarily static, right? Don't define any public. So those are everything I have mentioned in the coding standards link. Just go through it. Okay. Now the third one is top 10 responsibilities of SDET. So this one I have written it very thoroughly. Okay, just go through those things. Okay, guys, 10 responsibilities of an SDET. You folks will love it. Okay, I have written it very thoroughly with examples. So go through this one. You will have a very good idea about that how things work and what usually an SDET do. Right? It has been properly mentioned over here. So basically. You can go through that one later on. I will explain in my way, right? So let me just do one thing. So, but the main responsibilities would be you should always solve a problem, right? It should not like you just automate test cases. You should come up with an idea how to reduce the time taken by QA to automate the test scripts, right? How will try to make the life of a automation QA much easier, automation QA or QA much easier, right? Just giving you an example. You have a screen where you are making hundred and thousand of assertions, right? Hundred of assertions. For example, you have a complex screen in any e-commerce website. You have a complex screen and you are making a lot of validations. For example, 30 validations. then you should come up with an idea how you can implement an AI powered tool, right? You can do a visual validation, you can do any approach you can take, right? Because AI is good in market. So how you can implement that part. So those kind of idea, it should come from you, right? For example, you have a UI automation script, it is taking 10 minutes to execute, right? And trust me, don't have to design any new framework. Try to figure out if there is any existing. If not, then design something else. But the example is like your test script is taking 10 minutes to execute. Now you figured out that half of the portion you can do by making an API call, which takes only 2 seconds. So try to implement that. Instead of executing a normal 10 minutes execution, remove the first 5 minutes, replace it with the API call. So now your execution time will be 5 minutes, 2 seconds, right? For example, you are in a normal e-commerce site and you are adding an item, you are going to cart page, you are checking out it and then placing an order. Rather than you can try to use an endpoint which will directly place your order, right? Because your validation may happen after placing the order, right? So you should not be go through the entire functional flow through the UI. So those kind of ideas should come from an SDET. You should always be in a sense like you should always ready to improve the automation. You should contribute for unit and integration testing for sure, right? How to create mocks, right? When you are creating end-to-end scenario, how to create mocks, how to create stubs, those should also come from an SDET person. He should come up with an idea how to implement it properly. We will talk more about stub in the next slide. This one is one of the most important. This is again come with your programming language, right? Expertise. You should definitely aware of design patterns. Not only aware, you should know which design pattern to use in framework and why. More about what, you should know about why. Why means everybody is using singleton pattern, right? But you should know why you are using singleton pattern. You should able to explain that this is normal approach, this is singleton approach, and what benefits you get after implementing singleton pattern, right? Similarly, go for builder pattern. Builder pattern comes very handy in API, right? In everything, but in API, we use builder a lot. Similarly, singleton pattern, POM, factory, there are many more like decorative, strategy. I have not written all the patterns, but those four are the most used. So what you should do, I am writing a proper blog also on it. It will be published by month end. So you should know how to create those, how to use those patterns efficiently. Okay. And always make a comparison. Normal approach with pattern, and do a comparison that what benefits you are getting. You should be always aware that your intention should not be implementing pattern. Your intention should be how you are making things better by using the patterns. Many of the time what happens, we learn from Google or YouTube about singleton pattern, then we start explaining. But what happened when we start cross question that, okay, if I don't use singleton pattern, what would be the problem, right? Everybody say, okay, one instance. Why? If I don't create one instance, what's the problem, right? Because in automation we don't need multiple instances. So what would be the problem? So you should able to understand those logics. Because when you're targeting as an SDET, when you approach a very good organization for an interview, they will ask you real-time scenarios, right? Everybody expect, in fact, if I will take an interview, I expect the person not to give me definition of singleton and builder, rather tell me that, okay, here I have faced one problem around a couple of months back and I have resolved it by using builder pattern. Right. So those kind of answer we expect, right? Request specification, response specification, those are all builder patterns, right? So those examples should come from that, how you have simplified things by using design patterns, right? And this is also help you to optimize your code, correct? So the next one would be automation enabler. So so the main problem is, when I say that you should be an automation enabler, the cross question came that how we will be an automation enabler, right? Automation enabler doesn't always mean bringing UI automation, API automation, or mobile automation. Automation enabler means identify the problem and propose the solutions, taking on projects that identify and mitigate risk while measuring software quality. What do we mean by that? Let me give you a typical example. You have some integration and unit test you guys have in your project. Developers are writing unit test and integration, for example. You figured out that there is no parameter how you can calculate the coverage automatically, not manually. So there are no way to implemented in your project to calculate the coverage. So you should come up with an idea that what tool we have, for example, static code analysis or any coverage analysis tool we have in market, and how you can integrate with your dev code base, right? You are improving the software quality. How? By measuring the coverage automatically, right? In that you will find out the missing line coverage, branch coverage, right? Code coverage. So those things are work as an automation enabler. So you are enabling the automation, but along with it you are improving the quality of whatever existing, right? Automation enabler doesn't, as I said, doesn't always mean bringing new automation. That's there, but apart from this is a real-time example or typical example I'm sharing, right? So you are coming up with an idea to calculate the code coverage, because there are a lot of tool nowadays. Jacoco is there. Jacoco is very good, right? So you can implement all those things, how to perform coverage analysis, and all those kind of things will give you a lot of value. Just let me see the time so that I will plan. Okay. The next one will be integration testing with mocks. Why I have written properly mocks? Because what happens, normal integration test, automation QA also can write. So where this SDET role comes into picture, let you have three services you are testing. Service 1 talking to service 2, service 2 talking to service 3, and service 1 talking to service 3. Typical scenario, right? Service 1, service 2, service 3, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 3, right? Every communication is happening. Service 1 is external, right? You don't have any control on service 1. But service 2 is consuming service 1. Service 3 is consuming service 1 again. So there will be two integration points. Service 1, service 2, service 1, service 3 from service 1. And service 1 is your third party. How you will automate? And they have told that we are not going to expose anything. You have to write mock for your end-to-end scenario to happen, right? So those ideas also come from SDET. He should understand that how the integration points are working, in which integration points I need to write mock, what kind of mock I should use, right? How I will make sure that in beta my mock will work, and in gamma, because in gamma you need to remove the mocks, right? Gamma is real time, you cannot use mocks always in gamma. So in beta, how you are going to integrate the mock, and in gamma, how you will remove it and replace it with another mechanism, right? So all those things should come from an SDET. He should come up with those ideas, where to use mocks, how to design mocks, how we will do a schema validation over there. Is there any contract testing required? All those integration testing calls should be made by an SDET. Integration always SDET should involve in there. And integration, when I talk, it's about service integration. Okay, I mean to say service integration specifically, no relation with UI or any like that. And always remember in this mind, UI automation is not going to be a proper primary role of an SDET. He should not be much involved in UI. Why? Because UI is kind of a proper job role for an SDET, or who is migrating from automation to SDET, right? But it is not a good role definition for an SDET role, because you see, UI automation is quite simple, right? It is straightforward. So there is nothing typical complexity comes into picture unless you are integrating something. For example, you are uploading your UI screenshots to S3 bucket, right? So this is an integration. You are updating your execution result in test rail. This is an integration. Here, SDET may pitch in. He will come up with this idea and integrate. He should not come and write the UI and test. He should not involve in pages and all those things, correct? Because he can do some better work to simplify the things. And when we expect somebody to come up with new ideas, we need to give them space, right? That he should understand the problem first, right? Then he will come up with the solution. Because in SDET, you cannot complain, I'm not getting automation work. You need to create automation work, right? And you need to give it to the QA. So you need to first realize where are the gaps. You have to find the gaps. Then you have to come up with the solution. Then you need to figure out how you will implement the solution. Once implemented, you will not continue it. Implement it, give it to the automation team. They will figure out how to use it properly. You should not show them every time, okay, to use it, write this script, integrate this. You just create the integration. For example, the integration section of UI framework with S3 bucket, then you are done. Uploading, managing your S3 bucket, they will do. Right? Similarly, in integration also, design the mocks, give it to them and give it to the team, they will use it. SDE also consume the mocks created by SDETs, right? So you have to work with SDEs in sync, okay? You have to be very in very good sync with SDs, right? Because most of the time, the models also we share. When we use some models in API, we share. Maybe we create, they will use, or they create, we will use, right? So you should have a proper sync with dev when you are working as an SDET. And this is the most powerful weapon, right? Java. Any programming language if you can pick. My favorite is Java. I've worked in Java, C Sharp, Python, JavaScript, but my favorite is Java. Okay. Why? The reason is that because I have started with Java, and trust me, it helped me a lot to understand the rest of the scripting or programming language. It hardly takes 2 to 3 days to learn new one and use. And Java has the best, what I feel, Java has the, will give you the best exposure for programming. Okay. Now the question is, many time I face this question, should I learn DSA and ALGO? Right? Trust me, guys, if you are not sure about 5 things in Java, learning DSA is worthless. Okay, why I am saying? First, you should clear about string, array, list, map, exception handling. If somebody is not able to answer me these 5 things and he is saying he know DSA, then it is of no use. Correct? It's like you will fly kite, but you are trying to take a pilot lesson. So how come it benefit you, right? You're getting the point, right? So if you just want to fly kite, and if you are learning pilot lesson, then it's not kind of useful for you. You will never use that learning, right? You're just wasting your money and time. So I always advise first focus on these 5 things: string, array, list, map, exception handling. Everything is there in this link. Okay, don't worry. These 5 things you should be very, very strong. Okay, very strong. String, array, list, kind of every day you will use. Map, string, array, list. Exception handling, very important. Why? Because many a time when I review some code, I have seen people are using non-stop throws. Right? Throws is not advisable. Because one method you will create, you will write that throws, consume that method in another one, again you have to throw the same throws, right? So it's so you have to understand why we should not use throws, right? What kind of try catch I should use, what kind of message I should give in catch, should I create my own exception? So those framework exception, for example, right, those things should come up from an SDET. But if you don't understand exception handling, how you will come up with these ideas, right? String usage, array usage. When this is a very typical question, give me an example where you can use array but you cannot use list. Give me an example where you can use list but cannot use array. And you should not give Google examples. Come up with an examples from your framework. Give me a framework example where you have used map. For typical map example, when you are reading a JSON, parsing a JSON, right? When you are parsing your property file, all those are converting into maps, right? Behind the scene. So try to figure out examples from your framework for array, list, map, and exception handling. Try to give examples from your framework. And if you are targeting for SDET, come up with your own idea that how you can implement those in your framework and how it has improved your code reusability or optimization. Correct? So in Java, target string, array, list, map, and exception handling. Once you are pro in these 5 things, you can learn DSA algo for sure, right? But before going to DSA algo, learn these 5 things, or else it will be of no use. You will waste your time in that. Correct? There are many good coding. You can practice your code. Next thing, practice your code every day. Okay, you can pick any website for practicing, right? Don't go for any high fundo things. Keep it simple. Okay, my formula always be pick a simple one. For example, finding duplicate, very easy one, right? Try to do that with 4 to 5 ways. Try to do with only array, try to do with for loop, try to do with list, try to do with map. So try always pick a simple solution problem, solve it with different approach. That will enhance your thinking power. That will enhance your analytical thinking. Jumping into a complex problem will not make you a proper coder, right? It will give you satisfaction once you solve it, but it will not make you a proper coder. Why I am saying it? Because what will happen? You will spend a lot of time in resolving complex things, but what will happen in interview? You not face the exact same question. They will ask you a different complex question, right? And this is my personal experience. Pick a simple one. You will keep your interest alive. If you pick complex one, after 1 week, you will leave it. You will not practice it for a longer time. You pick easy one, try to solve it in multiple ways. That way, your ability to solve a problem with different approach will increase, and you will only figure out that what benefit you got while using array and what benefit you got while using map, because every complex problem need to be divided into small chunk and then resolve. That should be the approach. When you get a complex problem, this is my approach. What I do in simple English, that I will write a first. I do it in my mind this way, then I divide it into two half. That first half I will just define everything, second half I will run the loop, third half I will connect the first two things. So like this, you need to divide small chunk, and whatever you have done with your simple problem solution, just try to implement in small chunk. So that is the best approach for Java coding practices. Okay, once you do practice for 1 to 2 months with easy problem, then only jump into complex. Directly jumping into complex is very difficult to maintain, right? Next one will be cloud exposure. Definitely have some cloud exposure. Okay, any one you pick. Okay, any cloud available in market you can pick. AWS, I guess, is the best one going on, but it's not like only AWS, right? You can pick any cloud service, right? But have exposure to cloud. Why I'm talking about cloud? For example, I have given, right, X3 S3 you want to integrate, you should learn cloud, right? S3, DynamoDB, Code Whisperer, those things are very common, right? There are many more services provided by cloud. You should expose those things, explore those things, right? Creating AWS instance, how to how to use your S3, right? How to use DynamoDB. So those things you should be aware of. You don't have to be a pro. Always remember, in cloud, you don't have to be a pro, because you are not applying for cloud architect position. You're applying for SDET. Which part you should know? How to deal with couple of important cloud services. Normal one, as I told, AWS EC2, S3, and DynamoDB. So those basic things you should aware of. It's not like you have to be a pro. You have to put a lot of effort in cloud. Don't put much effort in cloud. Just know about the basic. Many people ask me, do I need to do certification? If you do, it's good. If you don't do also, it's fine. No harm in that. Okay, it's like good to have. Cloud exposure is good to have, but till now whatever I have explained, those things are all must have. You cannot ignore those things. Okay, those are must have. Cloud exposure, good to have. I have written about something over here. Here I have written the framework part, right? I will give you a little bit on the cloud, but cloud you don't have to worry much. Now this is also one of the mandatory things, automation ROI. SDET should 100% focus on ROI, because if you cannot show ROI, SDET role is not going to sustain for a longer period of time, right? How you will make sure that, okay, the amount and time and money companies investing in an SDET, that will give you proper ROI, right? I have written properly over here how you will calculate ROI. Okay, just go through this one. Time saved, there are two things: time saved, effort saved. Okay, just go through this one, you will figure out that how you can do it, right? So basically I always advise that we should have a proper understanding of ROI calculation, because if we don't have ROI calculation knowledge, it would be difficult for us to make sense that why we need an SDET in our team, right? Try to figure out that how much time you are saving by automating something, or because when you propose a new framework, you have to give them a time saving, that okay, if I will implement visual, or if I will implement CI/CD, I will save this much of time. If I will implement S3 integration, I will save this much of effort. So time saving or effort saving, any one thing must be there for any initiative you are taking, because if you cannot show time saving, effort saving, it will never work out. You cannot implement that one, right? So you should have proper understanding with your automation ROI. Here some of the important links I have given. Okay, you can just go through those. I will add a little bit more. Anyway, I'm going to share this link with you folks, so you guys can just practice of your own, right? I guess we are right on time, 3-minute buffer. Now I hope we can take some questions from you guys, right? And if you need help on this, if you guys think that okay, you need help, you need to talk you need to talk to me on career guidance, how to be a good SDET, or what are the things you need to learn. I know many of you have already aware of my TopMed, so you can go to this TopMed link, right? You can arrange a one-to-one call with me, and whatever I have explained, the tech stacks, everything I used to provide as training sessions also. If you want, you can try, or else, Google, YouTube is also enough, right? So if you're learning of your own also, it's fine, no worries. Okay,
Perfect. So thank you so much, Siddharth. I think we can go on and on hearing. There was abundance of information flowing from your side. I'm sure people enjoyed listening to it. Obviously, Siddharth will also share the PowerPoints with you all to up later. But if you have any questions, we'll take them. There are a lot buzzing in. So let me just stop screen sharing.
Yes, I'm just pasting it over here.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. So you have the link there. So please put your questions in the Q&A tab. We might miss it in the chat. So we'll take it one by one. And yeah, before we get on to questions, I just wanted to hear from you. What was the thought in your mind when you thought of choosing SDET as your career, right? Because this is going to help a lot of people. So what was the mindset uh, getting into like, okay, SDET is the career for me? Like, how did you get that click?
So there is one benefit you will get to work as an automation, because see, now there is a problem that many organizations have SDET, many organizations doesn't have SDET. That doesn't mean that you cannot work as an SDET, right? Because designation doesn't matter much unless you have all those attributes that we have explained and how we are implementing, right? But what excites me as an SDET, I always get to work on new things. You will get a lot of scope in doing R&D, right? You can come up with a problem. For example, as I told, integration coverage is missing. You should come up with a thing that, okay, let's see how to integrate Jacoco with my integration, how to integrate Jacoco with my unit, and figure out. So you should have that crave, but always remember, in SDET we have to put a lot of effort, right? Nobody will guide you that do this, do that. You have to come up with an idea that, okay, I will do this, I will do that, and this is the solution. You have to convince also that this is time saving, this is effort saving, that's why I'm doing. Then they will allow. So little bit struggle, but you will always be on top of everyone, right? Because if tomorrow, if you want to get inside automation also, you will be a pro, right? And always remember, as if you work for a longer time as an SDT, you can work as a backend developer easily, because you have to deal with a lot of service testing, integration unit. You can anytime in future, those who are in initial phase of career, definitely your career, you in future, maybe after working 2-3 years of SDT, you can jump to SD, right?
Okay. And I liked also what you mentioned, and SDET should be an automation enabler, finding problems and solutions. I think that is one key thing that stuck in my mind in your talk. So I think that's one thing we also look for. So I'll take a lot of questions coming in. Probably may not be able to answer all of them, but we'll try to take as many as we can. So Shivangi asks in terms of, could you quickly summarize the difference between an automation QA and an SDET? Maybe your thoughts around that.
Yes. So automation QA will automate the test scripts or may design a framework, right? But SDET will come up with the solution. For example, as I told, an automation QA may not be aware that, okay, we have the capability to integrate Jacob. He may not be aware that, okay, we can upload our screenshots into S3. He will write screenshot utility, but screenshot utility is always not be a proper solution. So your SDT will come up with an idea. He will create a package which is a consumable one. It's not like only for your project. Automation QA always work for a project. SDET work for an organization. Always remember this. When you are thinking as an SDET, try to solve a problem for a broader audience, not for your team. You cannot show ROI working for your team. Your automation QA will work for your team, right? You will work for an organization. So you will come up with an idea, create a package for S3 integration and give it to your automation QA, create a document and tell everyone in your org that, look, I have created an S3 integration package. Welcome to consume, right? So this is the main difference, right? How you are thinking about a common problem and finding a solution.
Great. So there are a couple of questions, and I think many of us here attending also want to know. So if you are currently into manual testing, can I switch my profile to SDET? That's what Shubham is asking, and I kind of also put that recently, in terms of putting up questions like, are you wanting to switch to SDET because you're just thinking that it's a cool thing to do, or it's because it's kind of respected more over being a manual tester? So Siddharth, I would like to hear your thoughts on this for Shubham. Uh, how can one take that leap to move from manual testing to SDET?
Okay. So first of all, if you don't have proper coding experience, don't jump into SDET in first hand. Okay, strictly avoidable. Why I'm saying, because see, you know that after giving 4 or 5 interviews, you may crack the interview, right? By going through interview. But when you start working, it will be a hell for you. So never try from manual to SDET unless you, but you are a manual QA, but at your home, at your spare time, you are practicing coding. You are importing different GitHub projects. You are practicing randomly. Then you can apply for SDET. But if you don't have coding experience, first work as an automation QA for a couple of years. Then think about SDET, right? So there would be a process. Automation QA 2 to 3 years, healthy time, aware of all my coding things, framework things, then jump into SDET. It will work very nicely for everyone.
Great. So there are a couple of people also, like suppose I'm entering into the SDET role. So any thoughts in terms of courses that one needs to take, to, or some resources that you suggest to get up to scale to get started on the SDET?
Yeah, so the things I have mentioned in all the slide, you can go through those things. Those are more than enough. As I told, I also provide sessions, so you guys can reach out to me for sure, right? I can help you. But just keep in mind that you should have one API framework, one UI, one mobile, one CI/CD, one Git, one dependency, whatever I have mentioned. At least you have one knowledge from everything, and you should be you should very good in Java. And very good in Java means the 5 things that I have discussed. Those 5 things, at least you should be a pro. You don't have to be a pro in DS and Algo instantly.
So there's a question in terms of what are your predictions or thoughts on SDET roles in the future? We are seeing AI kind of evolving. Can the SDET role be sustained in the long run, seeing the increase in AI adoption? So yeah, just your thoughts around that.
Okay, so I would yesterday also I was talking to someone on TopMed and I told the same thing. This is my point of view. Okay, if you have not started coding, you are in IT field, start doing that. Okay, it's not like it is important, because see, if you enjoy coding, it will help you a lot in future. Why I am saying, you must have seen ChatGPT can write very nice test cases, right? Couple of addition you can do on edge case. ChatGPT can write nice test case. ChatGPT can write test scripts also. But can ChatGPT come up with an idea to integrate S3? If you don't ask him, he cannot find gaps, right, in your process. He don't know where to write mocks. He can write mocks, but where to write mocks? How he will decide? Can he come up with an idea that we will start calculating coverage with automation? No. You can ask him that, okay, write Jacoco coverage for me. But can he come up with an idea that Jacoco is required in our project? No AI can, right? So that's why it's not about SDET, but if your thought process is like that, no one can replace you. But coding is important. It's not about, I'm not saying that you have to learn coding. Just in your spare time, write a couple of codes, right? See how things work, because there is no harm in learning, right? So definitely I would suggest, it's not like, but see, what happens if you have proper understanding of coding, tomorrow if some AI tool comes, you can use it properly also, right? Without no coding knowledge, you cannot use a properly a tool also, right? That's why a little bit of exposure from your end is always beneficial.
Good. So there's a question, someone wants to learn design patterns and get strong at it. So is system design and knowing the Spring Boot must for SDET? Yeah, so it's more about the request in terms of the current office where the manager is asking to write unit tests and fix bugs. So what are your thoughts on this specifically from an SDET side?
Yes, so design patterns is mandatory. I mentioned in one slide also that design patterns are very important to know for an SDET. Unit testing, yes, sometimes they will ask you to do unit testing, but not always. Okay, 80 to 90% of time we don't get SDET don't get to write unit, but yes, 10% you may get. But you don't have to means kind of very pro in system design, but you should know about HLD, LLD, bare minimum. Okay, you should know how to design an HLD. You should know how to, if somebody will give you an HLD, you should be able to break down it, right? how the service is working, how the things are getting. So at least those bare minimum knowledge we should have, but we don't have to be a pro.
So there's a question from Ajay. Tech companies, why he asked, why does tech companies not stick to one UI API automation tool which support just Java programming language? So I think he's asking for a unified tool or something. So yeah, your thoughts on that?
Yes, yeah, actually, unified tools are very good because everything in one place is always good, right? Because juggling around multiple frameworks is not a good idea. In fact, I don't prefer that, right? What we basically do, we create multiple packages and then one standalone to consume all those packages. So, one package for API, one for UI, one for mobile, and one master package which will consume all three. So, it will be like a single standalone framework, right? That is the best approach actually, because you may keep different packages, right, but always consume it into one master, right, so that it's like your master have the capability to do everything. So that is the best approach actually.
Okay, perfect. So there are a couple of things even I wanted to know, right? Like in terms of an SDET, right? There is a lot of balancing that needs to be done between development and testing, right? And a lot of collaboration is needed. So, uh, what advice would you give for someone who is struggling balancing both the activities of testing and development? What thoughts would you give that?
Okay, so I'm first of all, how I manage, I always used to keep I hope that Jira or something must be there in the organization. So what you should do, you should break your story points properly before the sprint and take your sprint planning seriously when you are working as an estate. QA you can juggle, right? 2 days testing, 3 days testing, then you jump leakage, many reasons you can give. But as an estate, you have to be serious about story points, right? If you have given the 10 story points I will give to development and R&D, 10 story points to maintenance of my frameworks, then stick to that, right? How I manage, before every sprint I used to define my task on the retro board, clear task, and divide the story points, so that if there is any leakage also little bit, but you should have a clear idea what you are targeting in this sprint. So that is the best way. And yes, that would be a problem as an SDET many a time, because maybe you in your team there is no automation QA, you are the SDET, then you have to write test scripts also, right? So you have to juggle between those things. But yes, the best way to deal with it is properly define in Jira, means sprint board and story points. Is story point and acceptance criteria the same? No, it's not same. Acceptance criteria is kind of how you will write your test case on top of acceptance criteria, right? Story point is kind of how you divide story. We have story points, right, for every task, and we reduce and increase it daily. It's like giving your t-shirt, what you guys told, we call it story point. Story point means you have a task one and you have given 5 story points. That means, for example, 5 hours it will take, right? So for every task we give story points. This task 5 hours, this task 10 hours, and after that we manage it.
Great. So there are a couple of questions asking, how to stay relevant and how to learn a lot of coding languages. So just in your thoughts, like if someone wants to kickstart starting to learn coding or learn any programming language for that matter, not just Java, but subsequently anything. So how can they get started? There is a lot of information out there today on the web, right? So what would you suggest in terms of starting the right way?
So I would definitely suggest, if you're targeting a new programming, anyone you can pick, but Java, Python, those are very good to start with. Python is very easy to start with, but Java will give you more core, means your core would be strong if you're starting with Java. It's not like for Python, it would be weak, but preferable Java. And what we should do, there are very good, you can go to any YouTube channels, right? I guess I didn't remember. Naveen Reddy or Telesco is good. Okay, guys, I'm not biased. I have used his videos during my initial days, because at that time there was no much channel. So I have used his. I'm not sure how it is right now, but I'm talking about 8 to 9 years back story, or maybe 7 years back story. But that's a good one, right? He has simplified things very nicely. But coding one, gigs for gigs, is very good. I have practice from Gigs for Gigs, honestly speaking. Okay. So Gigs for Gigs, definitely practice coding from Gigs for Gigs. No harm. It's a good one.
Correct. So perfect. We are reaching towards the end of the webinar, so we couldn't take probably all of the questions. Then definitely you can reach Siddharth, and he'll be happy to answer your questions. I'll probably take just one last question for you, Siddharth. Probably to sum it all, what advice will you give an SDET to take their career to the next level? And like we're talking about this webinar, right? How can they become top-notch SDETs? Your quick, short, uh, maybe 3 to 4 points on how
Yes.
can one become a top-notch SDET? Yeah.
First point, try to find gaps in your project. Okay. You cannot be in a space always like work is coming to you and you are doing. Start means defining your own role, start finding gaps, provide a proper solution to it. First thing. Okay. Second thing, focus on your architecture, on your product architecture. Okay. Why? Once you go through your architecture, you will find means a lot of gaps, that okay, here I will do coverage, here I will do integration, that you will find a lot of ideas. Understand that one properly. Third, always have a proper hold on your design patterns and Java coding standards. Must. Okay. Coding standards and design patterns must. Okay. And try to implement it in your projects. It will add value. Fourth, and the final one is, when you are targeting any SDET role, be sure that you have proper hold on practicing coding for 2 months at least. Okay. In 2 months at least, try to my plan was, I have practiced more than, it's not like for any particular company, I used to write code always. I have a package where I have more than 200 300 code. I all regularly used to practice those. So start with small one, addition sum of two number. Start with a very easy one, don't start with tough one, and slowly just keep on. Don't think like, okay, after 2 months I will be an SDET. Just do Java coding, practice it for at least 2 months, then only think about SDET. Why I am saying? Because in this 2 months, you will figure out you are really enjoying or not. If you are don't enjoying, don't go for SDET, right? If you are enjoying, then only think about SDET. Because if you don't enjoy, how you will work properly? How you will come up with new gaps or provide solution, right?
Perfect. So good piece of advice and a good closing note. So practice and keep learning and enjoy what you do. I think that's the secret sauce, I think, what Siddharth has to share with all of you. Hope all of you enjoyed this informative session. I'd like to thank Siddharth for giving us your time and helping the community upskill and get better at what they do. So thank you, everyone. And it was great having you all here, sharing an hour today. So yeah, good rest of the day.